Hello, everyone. Welcome to our debate. We are going to be addressing the topic of gift giving in ABA. My name is Riley. I'm going to be the introducer and giving part of our research. The other members are our summarizer, who is Taylor. She is going to delve into the topic of gift giving and share information needed to fully understand the basis of the debate going forward. Then we have our illustrator, which is Stephanie. Stephanie is going to provide information regarding pros and cons of gift giving through visual aids, such as charts and graphs throughout the presentation. The researchers are going to be myself and Stephanie, and we will be reporting on research studies that prove to be relevant to gift giving in the field of ABA. Our last member is Haley. She's the fielder. Haley will be facilitating a Q&A section at the end of the presentation. This Q&A portion of the debate will allow the group members to provide any further information that is needed to encompass the full depth of our topic. So first, we're going to start with an operational definition of gift giving, which states that to provide something voluntarily in an act of goodwill without receiving payment in return is considered gift giving. An example of this would be a parent giving concert tickets to a therapist as a thank you for all the hard work they have done. A non-example would be a parent giving a therapist a t-shirt that the therapist has paid for to help with a fundraiser. So the pro side of this debate states that we as practitioners should be able to receive gifts from clients and other involved parties. By not doing so, we could potentially create a divide between our clients and ourselves, and in turn, this could negatively affect the integrity of treatment. The con side of this debate states that as practitioners, we should be abiding by the ethical guidelines of the BACB and not accept gifts from parents or clients. Gift giving goes against the BACB Professional and Ethical Compliance Code 1.06. This code states that behavior analysts do not accept any gifts from or give any gifts to clients because this constitutes a type of multiple relationship. Next, we're going to move on to Taylor to get our debate started.
Thank you, Riley. As Riley said before, gift giving goes against the BACB Professional and Ethical Compliance Code and leaves the potential for developing a dual relationship. Therefore, gift giving and receiving should be avoided. It has been universally agreed upon by the members of this debate group that gift giving and receiving should be responded to ethically and within compliance of the ethical code. However, both sides of this debate will be presented and analyzed. Gift giving and receiving is not only a violation of the compliance code, but also opens the door for dual relationships between the practitioner and the client. A dual relationship is considered as having a second, significantly different relationship than that of the original provider-client relationship that's first established. Dual relationships present ethical considerations, one of which being that they have the potential to hinder the therapeutic services provided by the practitioner. According to a review conducted by Kegel and Geibelhausen, dual relationships involve boundary violations. They cross the line between the therapeutic relationship and a second relationship, undermining the distinctive nature of the therapeutic relationship, while also blurring the roles of practitioner and client and permitting the abuse of power. It is the responsibility of the practitioner to provide a safe environment free from exploitation or potential harm to the client. This includes refraining from engaging in dual relationships. It is also important to note that once a dual relationship is established, it's often a very difficult and complex process of returning to a strictly therapeutic relationship. Next, I'll be summarizing the pro side of this debate, which states that we as practitioners should be allowed to accept gifts from clients, because in not doing so, we could create a divide between us and the client and potentially affect the integrity of treatment in a negative way. In general, practitioners should consider the repercussions of declining a gift. For instance, in many cultures, it is considered rude to decline gifts from individuals within culturally diverse populations. Many cultures view gift giving as a sign of gratitude and respect for the services being provided. In any circumstance, failure to accept a gift may result in feelings of rejection or embarrassment on part of the client, creating potential damage to the therapeutic relationship. In order to eliminate the possibility of forming dual relationships through gift giving and receiving, practitioners should establish clear boundaries on the subject before services begin. Neglecting to do so may result in uncomfortable interactions between the practitioner and the client, should this ethical dilemma arise.
Next, we will move on to Stephanie, who's going to give us more information about the pro and con sides of RDP.
All right, so this ethical dilemma is very important to our class and anyone in the field of behavior analysis. On a daily basis, we have to potentially deal with issues like this, especially in multiple relationships. When a client or client's caregiver shows up after a session with a gift, anywhere from a small gift like coffee, tea, or to a larger gift like a gift card, it can become unethical if we accept these gifts. From the other side, like Taylor stated, if we don't accept these gifts, it can create a divide with our clients, especially depending on their culture. So now I'm going to pull up some references. So these are tables from an article we analyzed called Behavior Analysis Accept Gifts During Practice. So now what? So table 2 shows gift acceptance and frequency type. So 43 therapists answered that yes, I have accepted gifts of no monetary value from clients. No monetary value from this means that it was free from the client. So this could be a picture, a thank you note, etc. And then 23 behavior analysis said that they accepted gifts of medium or of small monetary value, which could be a gift, which could be gift cards, chocolates. And 7 said that they did accept gifts of moderate monetary value, which this could be items such as a gift basket or jewelry. And no therapist said that they have accepted gifts of high value. And then table 3 shows that some clients said the articles participants work with that it would be considered rude or offensive to not accept a gift. So this is where a gray area could exist in specific context. Now I'm going to move to table 4, which looks at vacations, meals, and beverages. From this table, it looks like it would be more likely that a behavior analysis accepted a beverage such as coffee or water over accompanying a client on a vacation. The results from the study overall indicated that although clients rarely gave gifts, all the participants had it. And then now I'm going to show 2 videos, one on the pro side of gift giving in a workplace situation and how that can go wrong. And then I'm going to show a video on the con side of gift giving, given by Dr. John Bailey.
Gifting. The Code of Ethics says what about gifting? We don't accept gifting. There's an easy answer to the question about gifting. The answer is no. I'd like to offer you this token of appreciation. This is a weekend for 2 at a resort for you and your husband for all the work that you've done for my child. All expenses paid. I just wanted you to know how much we appreciate that. And the answer is no. See how easy that was? No. Well, why not? Well, it's unethical. Well, it's not I mean, it's sincere. It's a gift. It means nothing. It's unethical. Receiving a gift from a client is unethical. Now, say more words than that when you say no. Basically, those of you that studied verbal behavior, you know what they're autoclitics. So you say, well, you know, I really strive to be an ethical behavior analyst, and I subscribe to the Code of Ethics. And our Code of Ethics warns us about dual relationships with people. And if I accept this gift, that creates a different relationship than we have now. I'm your therapist, and you're my client. And if I accept this gift, then we become friends. That's a dual relationship. And so, in short, the answer is no.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Next, we're going to move on to our researchers, which is actually Stephanie again.
All right. So to look at the research, one article referenced in our debate is titled Dual Relationships and Professional Boundaries, and this discusses the potentially harmful effects of dual relationships. This article discusses also the legal implications that sexual dual relationships can pose and the harmful effects it can have on clients and therapists. It also looks at non-sexual dual relationships as being exploitative and harmful if the relationships go unchecked. Although the article discusses multiple relationships, it does not directly reference the ABA Ethics Code, but rather the Social Work Ethics Code. The Code for Social Workers states that the social worker should not condone or engage in any dual or multiple relationships with clients or former clients in which there is a risk of exploitation of or of potential harm to the client. So although the ABA Ethics Code is not directly quoted, the similarities in the codes with regards to dual relationships makes relevant. And then another article we use in our debate is titled, Here's a Little Something for You, and in it 12 therapists were asked to discuss the times that they have been given gifts over the course of their professional career. The study found that 12 therapists had received gifts from their clients at one point or another. The gifts given were either problematic or non-problematic, and the therapist felt that gift giving is a normal part of human experience, but should be monitored in the therapeutic setting. Results and conclusions stated that gift giving in therapy is inevitable, and the topic is highly debated in the field. The study found that many therapists believe gift giving should be used per client as a way to integrate social and emotional skills into the therapy process. Limitations of the study include a lack of cultural diversity, as only white female clients were involved in the gift giving. There is a possibility that racial and cultural values can have an effect on gift giving and the therapist's feelings towards it. And then a third article used in our debate is titled Behavior Analysis Accept Gifts During Practice. So now what? This study had 6 behavior analysis from around the world answer survey questions about gift-giving practices and their personal views. The data showed that most of the behavior analysis accepted gifts as part of their practice. Survey answers showed that practitioners found that refusing small monetary value gifts would be damaging to the therapy process as a whole. The justification for accepting gifts was that it was usually tied to a cultural value. But at the same time, 77%, 44 out of 57 therapists, stated that accepting gifts would change the relationship with a client or family.
Further on research is an article titled Dual Relationships in Psychotherapy. This article looked into the gender dynamic of sexual dual relationships. The review found that for both sexual and non-sexual dual relationships, the therapist was predominantly male while the victim was predominantly female. Justification for dual relationships is usually that the therapist had to engage in the unethical practice in order to promote therapeutic growth. Another justification that will be mentioned in another article is that gift giving or bartering is an integral part of certain cultures, and to deny that would be insensitive. Another problem that this article raises is that in smaller communities, it can be difficult for professionals to be completely free of dual relationships due to the overlap in home, business, and community life. Our final article, titled Substance Abuse Counselors in Recovery, Implications for the Ethical Issue of Dual Relationships, looks at the current ethical code and the limitations it has. In order to assess the current ethical code, the researchers studied substance abuse counselors who themselves were in recovery. The study found that the current ethical code did not cover specific incidents that would lead the counselors to be in an ethical gray area. The code also presents possible conflicts between the values of the professionals and the responsibility to abide by the code. Finally, the study found that the code doesn't adapt to current or ongoing issues in the field and limits those that have to abide by it. Now we're going to transition to Haley, who is the fielder for our debate.
Thanks, Riley. I am going to discuss a couple common questions that come up in regards to giving and receiving gifts as a BCBA, and then give you some possible solutions to those questions. So the first one is, what are some ways you can communicate to clients or their families that you cannot accept gifts while trying to avoid an uncomfortable situation? For example, the mother of a client attempts to give you, the BCBA, a gift during Christmas time, something that she usually does for everyone in her life that provides a service to her or her family. When you know a holiday is coming up that involves the giving and receiving of gifts, such as Christmas, you can be proactive and send out an email to every client or families of clients to remind them of the BACB standards against gift giving so that there is no gray area and everyone knows the expectations. You could even offer an alternative if someone would really like to show their appreciation. They could leave feedback or a nice comment. If a client or family member does still attempt to give you a gift, you can politely decline by using a statement such as, "Thank you so much for the kind gesture. Unfortunately, my ethical code does not allow the accepting of gifts, but the thoughtfulness of your gesture is more than enough." Another question is, how do you know when something is considered a gift? For example, if you are working at home with a client and the parent offers you a glass of water, is this considered a gift? What about leftovers from a meal they made that night? Sometimes knowing what is considered a gift can be really difficult, but a good rule of thumb is to think of a gift as anything that is of monetary value. In the case of a glass of water, this is something that's considered a basic human need and therefore most of the time would not be considered a gift unless it was given in another context, such as, "Hey, I saw this really neat bottle of water at TJ Maxx that made me think of you, so I bought one for you." Different places of employment will have various opinions on what's considered a gift, though. Some places will say that if a client or family provides food for you, that's okay, but some places will also say that's an absolute no-no. Because there is some debate on what can be considered a gift, it's safe to just consider anything other than something of monetary value, maybe a card or a picture or a note, a gift. Another question is, how can you refuse a gift from a client without offending them and making them feel rejected? For example, in some cultures, it is customary to offer refreshments while someone is in their home, and it can be considered offensive if you don't accept. Clients with depression or suicidal thoughts also can easily feel rejected if you do not take a gift that they're trying to give you. So, the best policy is to be proactive and ensure that all of your clients and their families know the rules when it comes to gift giving and receiving. This can easily be accomplished by including this policy in the contract your client signs, as well as putting it in a need to know section of a welcome packet during the intake process. As mentioned earlier, you can even send out email reminders, when appropriate, to reiterate the policy. If the situation arises where you have to refuse a gift, always start with thanking them for their kindness and then explaining the ethical code that we must follow. When working at home, be prepared with your own beverage or snack. That can be super helpful. So if a client offers you refreshments, you can just give them a statement like, "Thank you, but I have my own today." If all of these strategies fail and you're in a situation where it is culturally appropriate to accept a gift, such as maybe flowers out of their garden or a food item, first take into consideration that cultural practices and contemplate if refusing the gift would be considered disrespectful or seen as an act of discrimination. A different question is, how can a BCBA prevent difficult situations from arising in relation to gift giving? Like I mentioned, the most effective strategies are proactive ones and making sure you keep that open line of communication with the family and the clients just so everybody knows the expectation that really prevents these situations from arising in the first place. If you realize you've accepted a gift, how do you go about dealing with it? Do you give it back? Do you keep it? In a situation, you must first think about what the gift was that you accepted. If it was something edible, then obviously it's not possible to give it back. However, you can communicate with the client or family and just let them know, "Hey, I really appreciated that meal you shared with me the other day, but to avoid violating any of my ethical standards, in the future, I will have to regrettably pass on your delicious food." If you accepted a different gift, such as something more tangible, even though it can make for an awkward conversation, it is recommended that you give the gift back, but show your gratitude by thanking them and inform the client why you must return the gift. You could even give them a nice thank you note to let them know how much you appreciated the kind gesture. How can you keep a strong professional relationship with your client and their families while avoiding accepting giving gifts? In a field where we work so closely with our clients and can make such a large impact on their lives, many times families and clients want to show that gratitude. And one way people know how to do that is by giving gifts. More often than not, these are just harmless gestures of appreciation, but since they can create dual relationships and blur the lines between a working relationship and a real one, we must maintain that we cannot accept gifts. However, it doesn't mean that this has to harm your professional relationship with clients by denying gifts and offending them. To keep the situation light, you could always make a little joke out of it, or even provide them with a card with a quirky message. This card is available on the BACB website. You can just print it off and give it to your clients and their families. It says, "Thanks for the gesture, you made my day. Though I don't want to offend you in any way, I cannot accept, in keeping with my code, the best gift you gave me was the kindness you showed." Another way to maintain a good relationship while not accepting gifts is by coming up with an alternative you both can do anytime they want to give gratitude, such as creating a compliment card you can exchange. You could even come up with a silly high five or a handshake or something of the sort where you exchange kind words of gratitude, such as, "I'm so happy I get to work with you," while giving a handshake or fist bump. Although these strategies can seem cheesy, they can help with continuously pairing with the client or their family to ensure that these ethical standards don't impair the professional relationship you have built with your clients. And that concludes our debate over gift giving and multiple relationships. Thanks for watching.